Because they let me stay there after I was economic development director. Of course, I paid rent.
I like the city hall. You could open the windows.
Oh,
So we have no one joining us, so here we go.
great. Oh,
Get started.
okay.
Call the meeting to order. Seeing that there's no public here to make comments, we can just move to unfinished business, and I'll turn over to you, Leslie and Rob.
Okay.
Take it away.
You want to intro? Okay.
Go ahead.
So thank you very much. I know this is coming up on the holidays, but we're really pleased that we can move this along. We did an RFP process to seek a consultant to develop an economic development strategy for the city. It was a very thorough process. The RFP was issued September 16th. We received 4 proposals. One from Chapin Concepts, Strategic Economics, Cosmont Company, and HDL Econ Solutions. Chapin is a boutique economic development business or firm. It's based in Chico, California, but one of their, they're very familiar with the Bay Area. One of their team members is in the Bay Area as a retail broker. So they have some familiarity with our economy and the local economy and the regional economy. Strategic Economics is very well known. They're based in the Bay Area also. Cosmont and HDL are both firms that are located in Southern California. That's their primary location. We put together an evaluation panel. It was comprised of the assistant city manager, directors of community development finance, and an economic development manager from the city of Mountain View. I wanted to get an outside perspective on strategy, and John Lang from Mountain View is in the midst of the city's own strategy process, which I helped them with last year in terms of an RFP. And then Ken Ramirez, our administrative analyst, was also on the panel. So the first screen was to look at the 4 proposals to determine, did they meet the basic fundamental requirements of the RFP? And that was the screening. And so based on that screening, the panel deemed that Chapin and Strategic were both firms that more than met the requirements. Cosmont and HDL both had, in the opinion of the panel, fairly weak proposals. They did not really hit all the marks. And unfortunately, I think a disadvantage for them, even though firms get hired from outside the areas, that firms based in Southern California really, they don't have that local familiarity. Even though Econ Solutions, they do work for many cities up here, including us. They do the city sales tax auditing. So based on that screening, we chose Strategic Economics and Chapin Concepts. And then to go to the next screening, the goals changed somewhat. The panel was charged with finding a team of experts with the experience to address the 3 major components of the RFP. That was the short-term strategy that focused on vacancy rates primarily in commercial and industrial development, commercial meaning office and retail. The second component was to look at a longer term strategy, a bigger picture that would also update the 2017 economic development strategy. So that was a big picture that would more or less fold the short-term strategy into it. And there'd be a SWOT analysis, completed comprehensive SWOT that would look at the city big picture, all of the different fiscal and economic development indicators that are involved, look at strengths and weaknesses in terms of the cities, in terms of their location assets, key advantages. It's interesting, in Silicon Valley, all of the cities pretty much are in the same basket. We don't recruit businesses. We really don't focus on recruiting businesses. Our focus, all the cities, is to try and retain what we have. What we see in terms of movement of businesses, it's a flow that goes within, this Bay Area region. They move from here to here to here to here, but we don't really attract businesses from out of the area or out of state. Because of the cost of doing business here, and also because we have a particular niche here in Silicon Valley. We have our own economy. Yes.
When you say we, you mean the region?
Yes, the region. Yes. we have Silicon Valley has its, and it's changing. It's changing. That tech focus is change. It changes every 15 years, 10 or 15 years. And we're going through another change now, right? So we generally don't focus on attraction. We focus on business retention and expansion. In other words, trying to grow, keep the businesses we have and try to grow them here. The other element that was important to the review evaluation was the team had to demonstrate an understanding of the city's economy and its key challenges and opportunities. And one thing Chabon Concept said to us in the interview that I think was important, they said every community is unique. There's no real boilerplate assessment. I mean, you cross the T's and dot the I's, but every community is unique and different. So from that and the other criteria, we were looking for a team that could help us take the economic development program here to the next level. Being that the position is vacant and I am serving as the interim economic development manager, one of the things I'm charged with helping Rob and city manager with is evaluating the needs of the program. What do we need to do to take it to the next level? What kind of skill set does the new economic development staff person need to have? So in tandem with that, we were looking for a consulting team that could support that new position when that person starts, so that hopefully they would have real tools, actions, recommendations, solutions that would help them get started. Because the skills, the thing at Silicon Valley right now, every city pretty much has one person serving in economic development. There's maybe 3 cities that have staff, a director plus staff, but most of my counterparts are a one-person operation in each city. So they need real practical tools, solutions, best practices that will help them hit the ground running. The final criteria was hopefully the team would add value to the economic development program. Take a look at what we've been using, what works and doesn't work, what's better in terms of tools and things that can help us refine the website, refine our message, our vision, our branding. So those are the things. And the fourth component, a third component of the strategic plan was to find expertise that would help the city with visioning, branding, and marketing. So those were the key elements that we looked at as an evaluation team. So based on that criteria, we selected Chabon Concepts. We selected Chabon because, one, they brought a team that covered all the bases. So they have a firm, Lone Fir, that specializes in visioning, branding, and marketing. They're a marketing and promotions firm. They have done work for public agencies. They have skills in facilitating a process that helps an entity define its vision, its message, and its branding. Also on the team is a retail consultant who is actually a retail broker and has been working in the Valley as a very successful broker with her own firm and has worked for other firms for 30 years. Christine Furstenberg is based in Contra Costa County, but she is well known in all the communities here. She's worked for them. I've used her. I've hired her myself in different communities. She's exceptional because she at the transaction level. In other words, she will not just look at a shopping center or a retail space from 20,000 feet. She will look at it from its marketability and desirability by tenants. So that was a real skill set that the other firms did not have. In addition, there is a firm, a planning firm that will help us with mapping. One of the things Michael Thomas tried to do was to map locations, key locations in the city's sites on the city's webpage. And that's it's something very hard to keep up to date, and you need some expertise to help with that. So this gentleman brings that expertise, and he's done it very successfully for many cities. And he does it from a land use understanding, which we also need too, the land use understanding. And finally, the primary firm, Chabon Concepts, it's an interesting firm. It is the only firm I know of in California that focuses specifically on economic development. They don't do land use, they don't do economics, they don't do real estate economics. The other firms will do economic development strategy, but it's not their core service. So Chabon is a small firm, it's a boutique firm. They've done strategies for Anchorage, Alaska, Honolulu, big cities, small cities, medium-sized cities, rural cities. So they bring a really wide spectrum of expertise to the table. Their proposal is included with the staff report. We liked the way they addressed all the components. It wasn't lockstep according to the RFP, but we felt all the bases were covered. And what they really focused on, and I think what's important, is we want a plan that's going to help businesses with sustainability. Everything has changed since the pandemic. It's going to be a challenging time for small businesses going forward. And, you know, they've been the backbone of every community's economy, but it's going to be very difficult for small businesses. You know, we were talking on the way in, right?
Yeah.
How we do our shopping and everything. And it's not so much a matter of price. I think it's about convenience, accessibility. And so local businesses are going to have to figure out ways to compete and to maintain their resilience and sustainability. Then taking it to the next step, we want a plan which helps those businesses, but that will also help the city in terms of its economic sustainability. So Chabon is going to look at the three sectors that really drive an economy. And I think they're correct. Visitors, okay. Some are more, some are less. Visitors, retail, and then your traded sectors or your industrial. And I think that is one of the most important sector for the city. Those businesses that are out at Dell Avenue and McGlincy, they're huge revenue generators for the city because they sell to businesses outside the area.
Yep.
And businesses outside of the area buy things from them. So it's not sales tax, it's use tax that they're creating. And that's a strong element of the city's economy. Chabon will do an expansive outreach program, a combination of focus groups with businesses and stakeholders, individual interviews, internal meetings. We're going to have an advisory committee that will be convened. There will be updates for the Economic Development Subcommittee. There will be a visioning branding session with council and the subcommittee as part of council, because we need that to help everybody understand and be on the same page. What is branding about? How does it transition to marketing? How does it transition to messaging and promotion? And we want our stakeholders to be involved too, because everybody has their own unique brand, right? And it's hard for them to let go of certain things, icons, logos, etc. But hopefully they're going to give us examples. That was the other advantage the Chabon team provided, because they have a firm working on the team that's their specialty. They're going to give us examples. Now, we're not asking them to go to production. We're asking them to give us examples that we might consider and choose. And none of the other firms were able to do that. The budget is $200,000. There's a lot of work to cover. And so we're going to try to keep to the scope. There will be some things that they discover as they proceed through the research and the due diligence, and we'll have to address those. Some things we will want to add, but we're going to try and keep to the scope so we don't exceed the budget. We've done reference checks for Chabon and all of their subs, and the references were stellar, on budget, on time. For the promotions firm, the visioning branding firm, I talked with an agency that uses them quite a lot, and they said what they really bring to the table is metrics. So they're able to measure increases in visitors, increases in hits to the website. All those things are built in so that you can monitor them as you go forward. we'll even have metrics, performance for our strategy plan. And it's hard. It's hard to get meaningful metrics because a lot of it we don't control, right, in the economy. So we will have measurements to include in the plan. We hope to get started in January because they're ready. They have told us that they've made an allocation of time in their work program so that they can move ahead with this. What I really liked is the on time and on budget. And it'll probably be us that drags it down a bit. It's always the public process, right? But anyway, so that we have committee felt very confident about their ability to move forward. So with that, I can take any questions that you might have.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the page 6 of your proposal. Where are we now? And they list in box green tasks. Then they go down below and expand on the task. Then so what I'm doing, I'm looking at the green boxes for the main things that they're going to do. And you had mentioned about the economic development staff. And I didn't see that in the.
Oh, no, that's not part of it. That's my work
Okay.
as interim. But this, as they go out to assess.
No, hang on. The question is, we are most likely, my sense, is going to redefine what the staff person is.
That'll be
you or
that'll be me.
Okay.
That'll be me. But it'll be using a lot of their work.
Right.
Yeah.
But we are going to get a reevaluation of that
That-
position.
Right.
So the thought was when Michael Thomas left, and I know there's been council questions, concerns on that position. Thought was to go through this process, bring in an outside consultant to manage it, which is Leslie. That'll create the roadmap
Right.
and probably some options on how we want to build going forward. And based on where we land, the staffing to get
Right. I just want to make sure because
Yeah.
who is it? It's
So
Leslie with staff.
Yeah.
Yes.
So Leslie's scope has 4 things. One is just keep the trains running, technology development, who is manage the Parkway program. 3 is manage this RP process, and 4 is just come in and kind of do a broad audit of our
Right.
program in parallel with this and give good recommendations on how we staff economic development.
Okay. And then I noticed you're calling the advisory committee. You have that, and then later you talk about the council subcommittee. And my goal, I guess, or what I thought we were going to be doing is have more touch points. It didn't seem like you had a lot of. I would think the subcommittee would be on the advisory committee.
Well, we could. They're certainly welcome to participate in that. What was in the RFP was, and it's hard to quantify meetings because you're going to do as many as you need to do. But what I want in terms of goal when we do the strategies, the advisory committee, I want them to feel comfortable and have a platform that they can give us honest feedback. Okay, so for example, when the consultant does the interviews, or focus groups or meetings like that, staff will not participate.
Or not.
No, because we want the interviewees.
Right. We want to have.
So I think there will be some meetings we can incorporate the economic development subcommittee, but I'd like some meetings to be without elected so that we can speak. Yeah.
There wasn't to me enough touch points. It was like
There's
all of a sudden we're down here where.
Right.
But whether it's monthly or every other month, but I would like to see more.
There will be
points for the committee.
There will be verbal updates that I give. There will be there were 3 official meetings with the subcommittee, up to 3 official meetings, but then we can identify, and the advisory committee isn't going to meet more because in the RFP it had them meeting every other month. That's probably was it every other? Yeah, I think it was every other month. That's a lot of meetings. Okay, so
Yeah.
they will probably convene 3 or 4 times, so we can figure out which of those meetings.
Yeah,
you're
I just,
participating in.
what, I read this last night and earlier in the week too. What's the time period? A year
I'd like to see if we can get this pretty much done in 8, at least ready to go to council in 8 months, no more than 8 months.
before the end of 23? Good,
Mhm.
great. And then, under the branding, let's see, where was that? So you're in phase 1, introducing the branding component. Half-day workshop with the advisory committee, economic development subcommittee.
Mhm.
Is that half-day workshop is everybody all at once
Mhm.
doing that. And then the research is the guiding document. So the main council does not come in at this point. The subcommittee comes in at this point.
We'll do the branding work session with council too.
Okay, it says, based on these insight research conducted in phase 1, a guiding document and is created and brought back.
They'll
So,
come back.
and then the one up above, it's advisory committee, economic development subcommittee, council members, which is the same thing,
Mhm.
unless that is council as a whole versus council members.
Council as a whole, I think, is what they meant.
Yeah, I'm just, the way it's worded, it's that economic development subcommittee is the 2 council members.
Plus,
It says council member.
that would be the remaining.
It would, to me, it would become to council, because this is,
Right.
just like PD and library, before you get started, before you do anything, come in here because that helps guide you as you're data collecting and all that. So that was just instead of council members, just take the members out, council and other key stakeholders, I guess, or somehow word it like that. And then, I forget what SWOT stands for.
Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
One of the things that I've seen on most of the reports that come in recently, everybody wants it to look nice and have like lots of white space, narrow columns. The fonts don't read that well. And so from day 1, I want to make sure that the graphics, because you're going to be reading the reports most likely online. I probably will print 100 copies of the report, maybe even at that. And so when you're online, when you have these things where the white's this big and the column's that big and the font's really light, they're so hard to read.
Shaban has a dedicated staff person who does the formatting, graphics,
Okay, so just,
everything.
you're going to look at it on your iPad, your cell phone. It's
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
be
they're well
small.
aware of that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and like the general plan came in and they, it looks cute, it looks nice, but it's not all that readable. And they'd have a light color font, a light colored bubble. And so just from day 1, really, what is this going to look like on the website? And how we're going to read this and the format, then whatever paper report.
That's why we have the loan for
Yeah,
brand-
right,
branding.
that's great,
Okay.
yeah. And let's see, what was my other, I don't know, maybe Sergio chime in, I look at what the other one was.
No, I think this is appropriate. So what we like. I think these types of documents a lot of times tend to be very focused on tourism, and that can be when you get something that's very superficial. That's just meant to go on top, and it's not necessarily realistic to the specific community. So I like that while they include visitor, the suggestions for what they get to are very specific to our area. And in the examples that they cite of work they've done, they have some of that, but it's not necessarily, I see this probably ultimately as being an internal document that's a guiding light for us as staff and council with some external components that may be for branding. But it's not going to be primarily, I think, a visitor campaign or a tourist campaign. I don't think that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, what we typically find out when we do strategy is that when we look at the visitor sector, especially in smaller cities, is that there are some real solid opportunities, but nobody really thinks about visitor opportunities, right? So much of the travel here is business travel, right? And we don't think about, well, what are some of the linkages, opportunities, partnerships that we can make that would shore up this, the occupancy of hotels on the weekends. Right now, I just got some feedback from colleagues. Occupancy is gone up to 80% in one city in Silicon Valley, hotels during the week, because companies are requiring workers to come back during the week for 3 to 4 days. They have no place to stay, live, because they moved. So, but weekends are weak, very weak still.
Yep.
But during the week, occupancy has gone up significantly.
Well,
So,
yeah, before the pandemic and years before even, you could not find a hotel during the week.
right,
But then on the weekends, there was nothing. And so like the 2 hotels over here on Campbell Avenue, right before the bridge, would have holiday, weekend, wedding, you name it, weekend deals. Just to
Mhm.
get, and it was almost like you got a whole night free for the 2 nights because they had no business. And I know hotel taxes up to 1/3 of our income. We do, hopefully all our hotels will be filled again. And then what do we do to keep them here? Well, we have the Creek Trail, we have the Prune Yard, we have the downtown. So there is some element of visitor, maybe not regional tourism, but you'd be surprised how many people like an hour or so away. Oh, we came to the Prune Yard, or oh, we like you down. My nephew came from Southern California, and his friends up here said, we found the cutest little place to go. And he comes to Campbell, he goes, oh, my aunt's the mayor, and so people do come from out of the area, but it's not the focus of
no.
this. But
And
I do see
and if-
tourism.
if the city has good fundamentals in terms of promoting and has the tools, for example, Twin Creeks. So out in,
Yep.
right?
Where it is.
You know how many tournaments take place there on any given weekend? And all of those, because I know my kids play and they spend a fortune traveling, on these teams. That's 2 hotel nights. Okay. And I come from San Jose, so I go to Twin Creeks. It's 12 minutes. Right. And after the games, all the parents are saying, well, now what? Where do we go? Right. So that you think of that as being a small opportunity, but it's a huge opportunity. The city of Vacaville, they have a very strong visitors association that markets them. The bulk of their hotel occupancy is coming from 2 sources: the Air Force Base and the playing fields with all the tournaments that come in. And they're filling up the hotels consistently. So even during the pandemic, they had a short break, but once things started lifting, the hotel occupancy went up. And then they're positioned close to Napa, where it's cheaper to stay in Vacaville. So these are the kinds of things that they'll look at, where's our proximity? Where's the opportunity, right? And what's it going to take to access those opportunities? There's, I think, a lot that could be done to cross market with events in downtown Campbell, with the hotels for just a 1 night, 2-day stay. Come in for Oktoberfest, right? Oh, this is a nice town. There's things to do. There's retail. There's entertainment. So all of that will be looked at. But again, it's like you say, it may not be the focus,
Right. But it is a part.
Yeah, it is a part.
Do you remember when we had the Campbell games?
Oh,
The Scottish games, they had the
Yeah,
fog
yes, I do.
show
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we
yeah.
had- That was a big deal for a while.
Uh-huh.
It was an annual thing. They'd fill up the whole track and the whole event and something like that. And when I was mayor and I was getting invited more things till COVID hit, I had a group of Chinese, I forget what the name of the business group, but they were saying that the hardest part that they have is that mid-range conference meeting rooms. And they were saying even just our Heritage Theater was desirable because of the scale of it, that it was big enough to have enough people, but not so big as the San Jose Convention Center. And they were looking for more places like that. Is like, where else besides that could you guys host us 20, 30, 40 people? But that mid-range was, and that's business. That is,
Well, I think
bring in.
one of the key messages that for this city and for the downtown, and this is a safe city.
Yep.
You can come for a weekend as an out of towner and know that you're in a safe environment, right? I mean, the police presence here is so visible compared to a lot of the communities that I work in. And that's a big feature. to
It's
have.
not intimidating, it's collaborative.
No, yeah, but when you're an out of towner, right? The first thing comes to mind was my daughter always says, well, when I say about someplace, she goes, we don't know anything about it. Is it safe? Yeah. Can I walk around, right? Can I go to restaurants? Can the kids go out on their own? I said, yeah. So I think there's some real opportunities and they'll surface that.
What
So
I like to say is the crimes are committed in San Jose and they drive across the street and we catch them in Campbell. There are a lot that we do catch from, even just coming from Los Gatos. The chief was saying these license plate readers are making a big difference.
one of the things that Chabon will do that's really important as part of the whole strategy and particularly the branding, the visioning is they're going to do perception interviews where they go out and they interview key people outside of the community to get
Good.
their perceptions of Campbell. What are the things that come to mind? What's top of mind about Campbell, right? And then you can use that to build, right? What do other people think? It's not just about what we think, right? We know we like the town, we think it has great advantages, but how do other people see Campbell, right?
So one more comment is you mentioned about cities here don't recruit out of state, out of area. But so why not? Why is that something we could consider? And then the second half is at one point 8 years ago, there was a plan called the DAP, the Del Avenue Area Plan, and it was a disaster, but it went from 1 million to 5 million square feet was the proposal. And so in any of this, will there be any type of thing like you should increase retail or manufacturing, industrial?
They're going to look at those opportunities. We don't recruit in Silicon Valley, again, because we have a specific niche in terms of the types of businesses that can be successful here. They tend to be your knowledge companies, high tech. There's a secondary base of supportive that support the high tech production, prototype manufacturing, assembly. But then it gets down to space, okay? And Campbell's built out. Most Silicon Valley communities are built out. There's no vacant land. The office tower, the biggest problem, what the retail consultant did some work for the interview. It's very hard to determine retail vacancy because when I went on CoStar, I mentioned to Rob, the search came up and it said 26% retail vacancy. And I said, that can't be right, okay? Well, the problem is, as the company explained, is that when she does a vacancy report for her clients, she has to go into each individual site location, look at the total square footage, look at what's available, look at what the primary uses are, because when they throw in vacancy for retail, they throw in auto service, medical services, all this other stuff. So she pulls all of that out and she thinks the vacancy in Campbell is more like single digit, under 5%.
Unoccupied?
Unoccupied,
Okay.
So
because that's how you do a vacancy report.
So one thing, Landry Lopez, so coming out of this, the recommendations, we would go back into the general plan zoning and make sure the permitting is aligned with the vision of the city. It hasn't been done to my knowledge today. So the idea is you have your permitting, we have a lot of permitting. We have to do. But once that vision is out on the types of uses and where we want them to go, and to make sure the permitting aligns to streamline, allowing those businesses coming in.
Yeah, I guess my question is, like the way that the DAP was, is this proposal, because we are built out, we don't have land, and that was basically increase the square footage, whether you go up or, there's a lot of open
Yeah.
parking lots and stuff.
Yeah.
So that may,
Yeah, we'll touch on it, but it's not a specific plan for an area.
but it could say
Good.
a general statement,
Yes.
increase the square foot double or something, like, and then that would.
In
go,
density,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, because that to me is the biggest way we're gonna
The
act
highest,
more is get more square footage.
the highest vacancy is in the office. And it's a challenge. And again, that's kind of speaks to why we don't recruit, because the office buildings are multi-tenant. They're just small businesses or firms that go in there, and they're harder to promote to. We don't there's a city in Silicon Valley that responds to the state. The state will typically, GoBiz division, which is their economic development division, will periodically pass on an RFP or a request for proposals from an unknown XYZ company looking for a location. Usually they're looking for 20 acres at I'm just being facetious, $1 an acre, right? With all the infrastructure in and everything. I mean,
Good luck.
because they're low end, low cost, sensitive production facilities. And we don't have that kind of acreage here. So none of us, and so in the economic development in cities, none of us respond to RFPs. The other problem I have with GoBiz and their RFPs, even the few times I have, 1 or 2 times I've submitted a proposal, you never hear the outcome.
Huh.
You never know where they went, where did they choose, what happened, why weren't we competitive? So it's to, as you know, we were talking earlier, Councilmember, about what it takes to put together a proposal, right? The time. And if you don't have the product anyway, right, not going to do it. Right. Again, I think the focus, the greater return on investment is to focus on helping our businesses with sustainability, growing, expanding. What do they need to expand here and stay here?
Well, I think the fact that we don't recruit as a region is really a sign of our economic strength. And there's a lot of evidence that, for example, all these towns that have these giveaways to companies like Amazon, one, they're in lower economic activity areas, but they actually end up losing money on those deals. So I don't, that's race to the bottom if we go that kind of route, and
Yeah,
it's not where the strengths are. The only thing I'd like to add to that analysis is that while small retailers may not proportionally seem as high impact as some of the industrial uses, it's a big part of what makes us unique, and I'm sure that's going to come up in the interviews. And so I really hope to see a major component being how to support the businesses that we have, even if it may, any one of them, all of them added up, let alone individually, maybe a very, very small percentage. It's a core part of what makes us stand out compared to other communities.
Yep, right. 80%, I don't know, or somebody told me this, 80% of any business's relationship or connection with a city is through some kind of regulatory permitting process. Probably getting a building permit or some kind, but that's the prime. They're either getting a business license or that's their touch point, right? And so one of the things I hope to do in my tenure here, and it's a little bit of a challenge, it's going to be a challenge, but in every community I've worked in Mountain View, I help them develop a newsletter. They send out to the businesses, but we got to figure out how to get email addresses for all our businesses in order to do that.
And that's something, when I moved into Campbell 9 years ago and got a business license, one, they did not ask to prove I was my DBA. They asked for no document. Anybody could have gone in and said, this is my DBA. They didn't ask for proof of that. And they didn't ask for my email. And so when some of the COVID and the economic stuff was coming up, it was like, how do you contact all these people without spending a fortune mailing to them? So that to me could be part of this, is how do you even update just what we need for business license?
Finance director told me that starting next year, as they evolve through the cycle for renewing business licenses, there will be requesting.
Yeah.
So we can, we start small. We can build, but newsletters are an art, because I find, having looked at many newsletters for cities, and again, this will be part of the branding too, right? The messaging. Most newsletters that go out to businesses, one, usually contain information that is of absolutely no interest to the business. Okay. Secondly, this was when I was helping Foster City. I said, no, take that out. That they don't care about what's going on at the soccer fields and or whatever. Take it out. We only want we want a very short message, that of key information that is important to them, right? Not the other part of it. So, and how you format it. So, but they will read it. They do read it. If you can get it out there consistently, and it has to be consistent. Don't have to send it all the time, but they have to know that maybe every other month or every month there's a newsletter coming. And once you have the template and the format down, you just populate the info. Mostly I cut and paste from other jurisdictions and the state and just put it in. It takes maybe 30 minutes once you have the format. And then you can just send it out. So there's just a lot of opportunity.
I think this is wonderful. And like I said to you earlier, it's a long time in coming. I'm waiting for a long time for this and I'm really looking forward to it. And when Ann asked me what committees, because she gets to pick, I said, I want economic development of any of them. You can take me off all the other ones, but that's the one I want to stay
Okay.
on is to
Yeah.
really see.
We'll be
what's
back to you
really-
with like I said, with regular updates to let you know what's going on. And there may be some silence the first 2 or 3 months because they're going to be in fact finding. They're going to be doing out there, but we'll keep, what we'll convene or we'll give you an update, but they will have to have some time to go out and figure out what the lay of the land is, right?
And they're going to interview us also. This whole thing of before they start getting too far into this, going to.
Well, it's either going to be them or it's going to be me as part of the,
One thing like there's just a kickoff meeting.
Right, the fact finding to start with council and.
yeah,
So
To
council
help.
member knows.
Yeah, we can do
Right,
where
yeah.
Doing outreach.
yeah, we can do that. Mhm.
Feedback.
Yeah, but I will be doing interviews as part of the position assessment.
Right, but I mentioned earlier in the scope to add this, that
Okay.
council members say council.
It's a print point.
Yeah.
Okay,
Great.
yeah, I'll work on
This
that.
is wonderful. I
Okay.
appreciate all your work.
So this, go before the council, or what's the next step?
I think they authorized me to execute the
Yeah.
contract.
So we don't have to come back.
Want to make sure.
That's how we can start pretty fast.
And then we're up to the council, once we do that, we'll send out. Just that we move forward with it, show the recommendation, subcommittees to support the staff recommendation.
Yeah.
I think the more updates like that you can send out, the better. I think the kickoff meeting is right. I think it's more about getting it at the right time and then during the other periods, not, maybe it's an email update or a memo.
Okay,
Making people feel included, but I don't want a meeting, every month or what have you, just because it's gonna add to the cost.
No.
Time, the contract. So I just want to be mindful.
Oh,
that's
Can
possible.
you help craft a brief memo to the council on execution? of this?
Yeah, I just want to avoid, then we get to the.
you want a memo to see we're starting off?
Yeah, just a brief memo that I can.
Info memo, okay.
Yeah, if it's
I don't
8
wanna get
months,
to the
if it's
meeting.
8 months.
And anything comes as a surprise to the council, that's not gonna be good. Right.
Yeah, if it's an 8
Okay.
month process and you meet every other month
Right.
for the subcommittee and then in whatever, maybe the alternate, because then that would be 3 to 4, what you mentioned.
Right, touch points.
The talking. And is there any reason to send out to what we do have on business license information or business people? Here's what we're doing, look forward to this.
Oh, it's part of the outreach.
Just part of the initial outreach, sending out something to give people, businesses, hey, we're doing.
Well,
this.
the problem is we have to mail it. Has to be a mailing. We don't have any email addresses.
You take a look at that.
We could put it on the city's on the web page, on a web.
Well, we have the Downtown Business Association.
Oh, yeah, no, we can
Chester
communicate.
Boulevard.
Yeah, we'll
Chamber.
message through them, yes.
Yeah, but it's just something, hey, look how great we are, Campbell's doing.
Well, at least some messages.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
the
We're going through this process.
Yeah, the pre-messaging,
If people want to engage.
Mhm.
get people
Hear that.
excited.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it.
Finally got here.
Yay,
Been-
well, you know what,
Been a
Rob, I
while.
told you, we're making more progress since last, how long have you been here now? Okay, we've made more progress in the year and 3 months than we had for the other 5 years that I was on council, so, yeah, you're doing great.
Right.
Thank
Appreciate your time and support, and
Yeah.
we'll send out a brief memo to the council, just updating where we are in the process.
Great. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Brian, did you see this newsletter from Comcast?
No.
About, Vacaville got $1 million